The Epic Game Store is constantly in the news, and a lot of time it has to do with Epic buying up exclusivity of games, generally timed exclusivity, right? Like, they'll have it for 6 months to a year, and then you'll see it release elsewhere like Steam and GOG. And here's the thing, it has been quite a bit of pushback over the idea of games being exclusive to certain free launchers. I mean, yeah, they're free, you can download them, but still, not everyone wants to download a bunch of launchers and have them on their desktop and try to figure out, okay, which one do I open to play my game? And then, of course, there's the whole situation of the Epic Store not really having as many features at all compared to Steam. Like, it's missing a lot, right? There's nowhere to leave a review for a game, which can be problematic when it comes to a game possibly being broken or trying to take advantage of its players, or there's a whole mess there, right? No user forums that they have. In fact, most people will even go to Steam of previous games that then have sequels that are exclusive to the Epic Game Store, and they'll talk there. It happened with Borderlands 3, and people were talking about it on Borderlands 2's Steam forums, so yeah, that's a whole thing. But something has now been reported today that brings into question how serious people are about doing things like boycotting the Epic Game Store, because it does look like their strategy is working. Now, of course, their strategy against Steam is to just buy up exclusivity for so long, and then it'll go to Steam eventually. But we have a press release for Borderlands 3 from 2K and Gearbox, and check this out. This is actually copy-pasted pretty much from WCCF Tech. A lot of places summarize it. They just straight up copy and pasted the press release. So we're going to go over this and see, well, just how serious this Epic Game Store stuff is if they pick out the right games, because it does look like, hey, if a launcher has the game you want, you know what you do? It seems that you download the launcher and then buy it there. So they say within its first 5 days of launch, 50% more consumers purchased Borderlands 3 versus sale of its predecessor, Borderlands 2, making the title the fastest selling in 2K's history, as well as the highest selling title for the label on PC in a 5-day window. In addition, Borderlands 3 has sold in more than 5 million units in its first 5 days, leading the Borderlands franchise to generate more than $1 billion in net bookings and becoming the second franchise in 2K history to achieve this milestone. And yeah, this is a pretty big milestone for them, right? They do say sell-in, by the way, and sell-in generally means you're selling to the stores. They're ordering, not necessarily a sell-through number, just how many they've sold to stores. And Borderlands 3 seemed to be being played by a lot of people, so they probably sold a good number of those. However, I do still see, like, you know, my Walmart and GameStop still have plenty in stock, although that's just my situation, my viewpoint here. It could be different elsewhere where it could be sold out. Reading from there, Borderlands 3 marks 2K's highest percentage of digital sales for a cross-platform, cross-distribution title, with more than 70% of consumers purchasing the game digitally in its first 5 days of release. I want to stop there for a second, because that is how far along we are in the digital age. I mean, consider this. We just talked about EA making a big deal about a 50-50 split for their sales. This is a 70-30 split, where 70% of their customers bought digitally. That's a pretty big deal. I mean, for a lot of people who like the physical sales, right? They want a copy that they can put on their shelves. It's going in the wrong direction here. They want it to stay 50-50 or even have physical sales overtake digital sales. It's going the complete opposite direction. Now, of course, this would be helped out by PC sales, considering you would just buy it digitally anyway there. Even if, I know at one point they were doing like physical sales, but it was just basically a code that would come in the box for the Epic Game Store where you would just redeem it anyway. So that's technically digital distribution. No, in this case, looking at it, we are getting closer and closer to that all digital future, and this is just another example of it going that route. And who knows, this generation coming up for the PlayStation 5 and the next Xbox could be the last time they even have a disc drive equipped, and, you know, the PlayStation 6 or whatever might be no disc at all. just no disk drive in there. So we'll see about that. That's still a ways off, though. We got time. But going from there, it says Borderlands 3 delivered the highest pre-order sales figures to date for a 2K title, as well as broke pre-order records with the Epic Game Store. Initial sales of Borderlands 3 have exceeded the label's expectations, and in particular, PC sales of the title through the Epic Game Store have been incredibly strong. So they do push the Epic Game Store here, and they should, mostly because they got paid. All right, so we know this, right? We know 2K, Gearbox, Take-Two, they got paid pretty well, I would say, by Epic Games. This is one of the big ones for them to go after, right? I mean, it obviously paid off because tons of people probably downloaded the Epic Game Store because they needed Borderlands 3. Like, they wanted it on PC. You gotta go get it. Seemed to work pretty well for them. And here's the thing. We now know that Control, think about Control, was paid over $10 million for 505 Games and publishers and everything to go to the Epic Game Store as a timed exclusive, right? This is a timed exclusive of 6 months for a much larger, higher profile game with better marketing in Borderlands 3. Now we get to have the fun time of trying to figure out how much they paid 2K and Gearbox. It had to have been a lot of money, like at least double what they paid for Control. And then also go back to the fact, looking at this, if you build your game on Unreal Engine, you don't have to pay the fees that you normally would for like the middleware program that you would use with Unreal Engine 4, for example, that Borderlands 3 uses. So they waive that, and it's a 12% split. You kind of see how the money is adding up for 2K and Gearbox to do it this way. Like, even if it wasn't as good as it appears to have been here, where they sold 5 million copies overall, right? Overall, everywhere, they still would have made a ton of money on top of the lump sum that they were probably given at this point by Epic Games. And in return, Epic Games had a ton of people download their launcher, which seems to have worked out well there. So, looking at this, they're going to get another launch. They're going to do it again on Steam, right? They're going to make a big deal in 6 months. Borderlands 3 is finally coming to Steam, you know? You can get it there. And some of the people who maybe held out will buy it, and they'll make a big spectacle of it. It'll be on the front page of Steam. So they are getting multiple launches for this game. It's almost like just the strategy for Epic Games is helping developers, publishers, twice over. They're going to launch twice. It's very interesting to think about that. But it is helping heavily for Borderlands 3 in this case. And then it goes on to say Borderlands 3 claimed the top position on Twitch for most watched game on its launch day and has maintained its position as a top 5 most watched game since launch. In addition, Borderlands 3 has already generated more than 14 million hours of content viewed on Twitch, more than half the viewership that Borderlands 2 generated in its 7-year lifetime. So yes, Borderlands 3, very popular despite Epic Game Store exclusivity. And well, a lot of these companies like to tout these kind of numbers now, and Microsoft is like at the forefront of that, talking about how many times people wrangle chickens or something in Sea of Thieves, or how many people watch the game online. But it's an important metric, I would say. You know, you're talking about how popular your game is online. And a lot of us looked at the backlash for the Epic Game Store, right? And we look at it as it being almost a death sentence for a game to a degree. Like, that's how a lot of people will look at it. They're like, you know what? No one's going to go to Epic Games Store. They're just going to wait for it on Steam. And you see that and hear about that a lot. But I do question, especially after seeing some of these figures and how excited they seem to be with the performance, if that is the case for the overwhelming amount of gamers, right? Is this a vocal minority that is currently fighting against the Epic Game Store? Or is this just like an outlier because it's such a big game? And here's the thing, if that is the case and Epic knows it, they're not going to stop, because this actually worked. Like, Borderlands 3 appears to have heavily pushed the Epic Game Store. You think they're just going to stop getting high-profile games? Let me give you an example. We think tomorrow, or maybe even this week, we believe, I'll say that because of State of Play, that a new Batman game could be announced, right? And we don't think, because it's WB, they'll probably put it wherever they can. We have a feeling it'll be on PC as well as Xbox, and the Switch is the biggest one that's up in the air. Who knows there? But we assume it'll go to PC as well as Xbox and PlayStation. Do you think WB would sign that deal with the Epic Game Store? Do you think Epic would reach out and try to get that deal done? Probably. And you know what? Even if they don't announce it here, they might announce it in the future. And that would make people mad, but from what we've seen with Borderlands 3, if you want the game, You're going to download the free launcher. I mean, yeah, I know not everyone wants it. They have some shady things seemingly going on in the background when it comes to data collection and stuff, but it is that sense of it's exclusive. I want the game on launch day. Well, I guess I'm downloading a free launcher. At least it's technically not, well, I guess I'm going to go download or buy, I should say, a $300 to $400 console to play this game. You just got to click a few times and sign up, and technically you can then buy it. But it is interesting to hear more and more about the backlash for Epic Game Store, but then seeing the results like these tell a different story. I'll tell you one thing. If Red Dead Redemption 2 comes out, it's on Rockstar's launcher, and then it's also exclusive to the Epic Game Store, that is going to be a fun day on the internet. But let me know what you guys think about this down below. Make sure you guys like the video if you enjoyed it, dislike it if not, and get subscribed as we have more discussion videos and stuff on all kinds of things going on in the gaming world. And I'll see you guys next time.